Hello, 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 and welcome back to my channel. Today, I just want to pop in and respond to a question I saw on one of the videos I posted that's been getting a lot of views lately regarding my testimony about my marriage to a malignant narcissist. Somehow that video must have hit an algorithm because it's had quite a bit of views, quite a bit of comments. I haven't gotten around to responding to all the comments yet. I am getting around to it. In between my really busy schedule, I do work full time, have a family to take care of, and things like that. But I'm getting around to it slowly. But I have been seeing some of your comments, and one of them was really quite triggering, and not because of not something I really take personal, but for reasons of how society views domestic violence victims. And I want to kind of jump on and talk about this a little bit more. And there are some other comments I want to jump on and do separate videos for and kind of respond to. So I saw some really good comments. But this one is about the following question: the home of your children, how did you let that happen? So basically, again, it was in response to my marriage, my testimony regarding my marriage to a malignant narcissist. And this person wants to know, how did I let that happen? How did I let that happen? And that's what I'm going to talk about today. First of all, what made me want to do this video? I was watching Lifetime yesterday. I just needed a break. I needed a weekend to myself, and I finally had the house to myself, got all my cleaning done, got my laundry done, and I was just sitting around watching some old Lifetime movies because I love Lifetime and the ID channel. And one of this old movie that I saw years ago, came out in 2018, was called No One. What was it? No One Would Tell? Yeah, No One Would Tell. And you know they're always making true stories into movies, changing a few of the facts or what have you, but they always making movies based on a true story rather. And this one was about a teenager that dated this really charismatic, popular, rich boy in school. And her mother was really on board with the relationship because, again, he was popular, he was charismatic, he was, what every girl would want. And her daughter was dating him, and everything on the surface level seemed like just great. He was a great guy and a great catch, right? Well, under the surface, this boy was abusing her physically. I mean, beating her butt, okay? Like, she was covered in bruises. Not on her face, but when she lifted her shirt, there's a scene when she lifted her shirt and her friend was taking pictures, and she was like bruised up all over her arms, all over her back, her chest, her rib cage, everywhere where the clothes would cover. Well, she felt that she couldn't go to anyone about this abuse because of his popularity, because of who he was. And she felt like she wouldn't be believed or she wouldn't be taken seriously. And, the only one that really believed her or took her side was her best friend, who vowed to kind of help her keep her secret when she really should have led her to go tell her mother what was going on. Because ultimately, what happened in this movie is her secret was kept for too long because the girl ended up getting murdered by her jealous, abusive boyfriend and thrown into a lake. Her life was over because she couldn't tell anyone, because she felt like no one would believe her. And um in a lot of the movie, there was a lot of self-blame for this relationship, because she let this happen to her, and how could she let this happen? And that is something that's so sad about domestic violence, and this includes verbal abuse, mental abuse, physical abuse, and abuse in all forms. Financial abuse is a form of abuse. any type of relationship with a narcissist, you're going to be dealing with some level of abuse. So this encompasses all types of domestic violence. People often stay silent because there is a lot of blaming the victim. How could you let that happen in the home of your children? And that's what that person did. Well, when you do that, what you're doing is you're telling people that are being victimized by abusers, it's your fault. So what happens? A lot of times they don't want to come forward and they'll live in their private hell in the prison that they built around themselves because it's their fault. It's their bed, they gotta lie in it. They don't want to look stupid or dumb or weak or like, how did I get myself in this situation? I can't tell anyone. I don't want to look dumb. I don't want to look stupid. I can't believe, and a lot of, there's such a misconception about what types of people get into domestic violent situations. You don't have to be uneducated. You don't have to be weak. You don't have to be stupid. You don't have to just be clueless. You don't even have to be lacking self-love. I mean, you can come across a narcissist, and if you're not aware of the way they operate, they can slither their way on in and with their techniques get you tripped up and in a situation to where you don't even know what hit you. And I'll explain how that happens in a minute. Okay? As for me, yes, I did have childhood trauma that I did not really understand how deep it went or understand how imperative it was that I addressed it. There's a lot of layers to this. I did not until I was an adult, until after that situation. So it did open the door to understanding these things. But I will tell you, I was very independent. I was never codependent personality. I never needed to have somebody in my life all the time. So it wasn't a situation where it was like, oh my gosh, I just have to have a man. No, that's never been me. Matter of fact, right now I'm a fearful avoidant, which means I've been single for many years by choice. So you can't just think, oh, it's just one type of person getting into domestic violence situations. And blaming the victim. How could you let this happen? Can't do that. Now, I do believe in empowering yourself, educating yourself so that you can mitigate these and circumvent, so that you can avoid these situations. I'm all for that, but everybody hasn't had that education. Everybody is not empowered, but it still doesn't make it your fault. It still doesn't. It's the abuser's fault. It's the abuser's fault because people shouldn't be abusing other people. Period. 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 With a T. Okay, let's just do that. Let's just get that straight. It is not the victim's fault. Now, let's go on to the next thing. For me, I was very independent, always been independent. Bought my first house when I was 22 by myself. I'm not dumb. I'm far from dumb. I have a career, had a career. I'm not going to tell everybody what I do and how I do it and what and all that because not everyone's business, but I ain't trying to get stalked. But I'm not uneducated, okay? Now, I will say I did suffer from trauma in my childhood, and that did make me a target. That made me a magnet. And that's with a lot of us, doesn't mean that if you are an abuse victim that you suffered trauma in your childhood. Maybe you didn't. One size does not fit all. Still does not make it your fault. Okay, let's get that straight. Let me tell you how these narcissists operate, and other psychopaths and sociopaths and abusers do the same thing. Okay? So I mean it's a very typical pathway for an abusive person is they'll love bomb you. If you're not aware of the tactic, it's pretty effective. They'll come in and they'll shower you with gifts. They'll shower you with time. They'll want to smother you with affection. They'll want to take you on a date every day. They'll want to, send flowers to your job. They'll want to fulfill the fantasies of the things they do in the movies to make you feel like you met your Prince Charming. And females do it too. I'm not limiting this to a male dominated. Well, it is dominated. I will say there are more. I don't know. I don't have statistics, so let me just leave that alone. I will say men can be abused too. Let's just say that. All right. I'm just speaking from my experience. I'm a woman. I date men. Okay. They will mirror what they see on TV, on Hallmark Channel, or whatever they think the Prince Charming's supposed to do, and that's what they'll do. All right. They'll love bomb you. Then they take you through the devaluing stage. They'll do things to give you the intermittent reinforcement. What does intermittent reinforcement do? It gives you ups and downs. It gives you valleys and peaks so that you are developing an addiction to them. Okay? Because valleys and peaks create chemical reactions in our brain. Just like think about a sugar addiction. Think about a sugar high. Like you're crashing, you're feeling tired throughout the day, and you're like, what can I do to get high? Oh, I need a candy bar. You go to the vending machine, you get a candy bar. It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. You got to make it till 5. You work 8 to 5. And you put your money in, get your candy bar out. You get that Snickers bar in. Boom, you're ready to go. You got that sugar rush. You got that peak. You got that high to get you through the rest of the day. Well, that's kind of like the relationship with a narcissist or an abusive person. You might be down, but then when you're in the valley, they'll come in and they'll give you that sugar rush and take you back to the peak of the mountain, and you're like, "Ooh, this is great," And then next thing you know, they'll do something to take you back down to the valley. Well, that constant up and down, up and down, up and down is just like the addiction that you get when you go to the casino, and this is scientific fact, and you pull the lever on the slot machine, and your brain, the chemicals in your brain are reacting to that, and it's getting pleasure, and you're getting addicted. That's why people get addicted to gambling. It's producing those same chemicals. That's positive intermittent reinforcement. Well, that's what an abuser does. That's why they'll take you to the valleys, and then they'll take you to the peak. Then they'll take you to the valley, then they'll take you to the peak. Then they'll take you to the valley, then they'll take you to the peak. Same thing. It's a game, okay? But in your mind, you're just sitting around like you're in the valley. And when they take you to the peak, you're like, yes, I knew that guy that I fell in love with during the love bombing phase. He's still in there. He's still in there. This is going to work. Well, you're addicted, and you're just getting that hit of that slot machine pool or that Snicker bar from the candy vending machine. And you're just getting that intermittent high, that positive reinforcement. It's that chemical addiction. Well, they throw something else in there that's called oxytocin. So when you guys have sex, so when you get in a relationship with someone and they're love bombing you, 9 times out of 10, an abuser is going to want to accelerate the sexual experience with you because they know. Now, this is effective with females because oxytocin is something that works in women. It's needed like when you're breastfeeding, childbirth, things like that. So when you're having sex with a man, okay, the oxytocin is pumping, and that is telling you I can trust him. It's accelerating a bond. And it's all natural. It's nature. And he's exploiting that because he knows once he gives you some of that good love, honey, you're going to be hooked. Well, you are literally going to be hooked because there is a chemical flowing in your body called oxytocin that is literally hooking you to that narcissist or that abusive person. Now, if that person is not abusive or not a narcissist, this can be a beautiful thing, right? But if they are abusive, this can be a terrible thing. So you better be careful who you giving that kitty to. I personally have my own beliefs about, I believe, God's order of things. I think God, I don't want to make this a Bible study, but I think the way that, things were intended in the Bible just makes so much sense. We're not meant to be going around throwing stuff around to all these different men, because you're making these chemical connections and bonds with different people when you do that. Literally, scientifically speaking, it's very dangerous. You don't want to do that. So there's a reason why the Bible says not to do that, right? I digress. Anyway, a narcissist, an abusive person is going to exploit that. They're going to want to give you that good. Want to get you in, right? So they got the positive reinforcement, intermittent positive reinforcement. They got the oxytocin going. They got you hooked. So when they start dragging you through devaluation and through sometimes even discard, and then love bombing and taking you through these toxic cycles over and over, you're addicted. You're addicted. Another thing too, if they're not discarding you and they just keep you just in the constant toxic cycles, and say you're married or what have you, and you just in a toxic, dangerous situation, your mind is, first of all, they've stripped you of all self-esteem. They've gaslighted you to where you question reality. Like, you start to think you're crazy half the time. And if you've been in a situation with someone like this long enough, you doubt yourself. They want you to doubt your own sanity. It is pretty doggone crazy. Now, for me, my marriage only lasted 2 years because when I started to see these toxic cycles, I was literally making my escape plan. I'm a runner. I'm a fearful avoidant. So I wasn't one to say, oh, I got to stay in this. I literally was making my escape plan. And I was finding it's not easy though. Once you're married to someone, let me tell you, once you're married to them, especially if you're in a community property state, it's hard to get someone, to get away from someone when you're legally connected to them. It's not, you can't just say, get out. I'm done. If they don't want to get out, you can't make them. You got to go through the court. You got to go through legal steps. It's hard. So you got to be super careful about who you marry. I'm just going to tell you that right now. But if you're tricked into marrying someone that's abusive or a narcissist or something like that, this whole victim blaming is just not right. Because when you do that, when you blame the victim for making a poor choice in a mate, you are discouraging them from leaving that situation. You're discouraging them from seeking help. You're discouraging them from telling their family they're getting beat up. And if you discourage that enough, this person can lose their life. So I just want to admonish people to change the way we look at these situations and stop being kind of so judgmental. I hate saying that because sometimes we do need to judge things, but stop being so judgmental. When you're not in that situation, you don't know. This person is brainwashed. This person has been sleep deprived. This person has been gaslighted. This person has been told they're nothing. They have been taught to believe they're nothing. They have been minimalized. They have been victimized. They have been, and in many cases, like I said, physically assaulted. I mean, everything in the book has happened to a lot of these abuse victims. And you're telling them it's your fault. You're not helping the situation. It's not their fault. Now, I am, like I said, all about empowerment. I'm 100% about empowerment. But it's not the victim's fault. It's the bad person's fault. It's the abuser's fault. That's who needs to get help. But guess what? They don't get help. The victims end up getting the help. And yes, I do think that we should get help. But it's not your fault. So, if you're in a situation where you are being abused, get that out of your head. It's not your fault. Go talk to someone. Get to a safe place. Go see a counselor. Find out what inside of you led you to, or, led you to getting involved in a situation like this. Maybe you do have deep core wounds that need healing. Maybe you do have some deep trauma from childhood that attracted you to the situation. A lot of times, that is the case. Traumatic reenactment. I have a video about that where we will be drawn to people that are toxic because we have a program running in the back of our mind that'll bring us through these traumatic situations over and over and over because our mind is trying to heal something. And maybe that's what brought you to that toxic situation. So you do need to get help. But I'm just here to say it's not your fault. It's not your fault. It's the abuser's fault. Okay? So I just want to say that. Now that I've said that, it's time to dust yourself off. And it's time to make yourself safe and make your family safe and make a way to a better tomorrow. Okay? I just want to send some love to everyone. Healing. Let this be the first step. If you've been in a situation, I'm sending hugs. If you're in this situation, I'm sending prayers that you get out. If this sounds familiar and you're thinking about getting in a situation like this, I just want you to run as fast as you can. Don't do it. Don't do it. And if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please list them below. And I'm going to come back with some more. There's some more comments that I saw under that video that I'll make separate videos for. And I'll be back to talk about other topics too when I get a chance. So I just wanted to hop in and say that. I just wanted to address that. No more victim blaming. I want y'all to have a great day. Thanks. See you later. Bye-bye.